Good evening, everyone, and welcome to News of the Inner Sphere. I'm Notice, your UrbanMech anchorman. Throughout history, some rivalries are destined to be made. Wellington had Napoleon, Grant had Lee, and Kerensky had Amaris. Tonight, however, we will go over a rivalry that will surpass many others before them. In the year 3008, all the talk this year will mainly be on the planet of New Aragon, a world within Capellan's space that will ignite a rivalry that won't die until two mercenary units and the men who command them are both dead. This, of course, will be the story of the Wacos Rangers and the Wolf's Dragoons. Before we can go into the action, we have to take a brief step back a year to go over the formation of the hot new mercenary unit, Wacos Rangers. Colonel Wayne Waco was recognized early on within the Capellan Confederation as having the aptitude at being a mech warrior. By the time he was an adult, he was piloting a Vindicator within the 2nd Kearney Highlanders. While in the Highlanders, he married fellow mech warrior Fiona Richel, and the two had a son, John, who was born somewhere between 2987 to 2983. The birth year is somewhat unreadable. When Fiona was killed in the line of duty by aerospace fighters from House Davion, he left the Highlanders to become an instructor at the Cyan University. But you can't keep a mech warrior out of the saddle for long, as he signed on with the 1st Tau Siete Rangers. When that unit disbanded in 3007, Waco formed his own company-sized unit, the Waco Rangers, and enlisted the help of young John to form the core of the unit along with veterans that he had served with over the years. Their first contract sees them and other disaffected Confederation mech warriors being thrust immediately into the fray against the biggest, newest mercenary unit out there, the Wolf's Dragoons. So throughout 3008, the Dragoons are tearing up Capellan Confederation space by conducting light raids on multiple planets to disrupt their forces. The planets of Necromar, Hunan, Saint Andre, Sesheni, and Tikhonov are all hit by small elements of Dragoon forces over the course of the year. But, despite all of that other action, it's on New Aragon where all of the big news events are going to happen this year. In one of the most massive invasions in ages, House Liao kicks things off in January by invading the planet with the 1st and 2nd Ariana Fusiliers, the Fremont Fusiliers, Tremonti Secutors, the 1st and 2nd Kearney Regiments of the Northwind Highlanders, McCormick's Fusiliers, and the newly formed Wacos Rangers. This, understandably, provokes an "oh shit" response from First Prince Ian Davion. He responds in kind by sending nearly all 5 regiments of the Wolf's Dragoons and 5 regimental combat teams from the Federated Sons. The House Liao defenders are quoted as saying, "I'm going to need my brown slacks for my uniform today." The AFFS and Wolf's Dragoons make planetfall late in March. A total of 18 regiments from both sides of the conflict are now committed to the fight for this one planet. To understand why so many forces are fighting over this world, we have to go over what it has. To House Liao, it's a status symbol as it was, historically, one of the first planets they had colonized. To House Davion, other than just taking it from their old rivals, it was a major medical research center until the construction of the New Avalon Institute of Science in 3016. It was also a major agricultural world that could supply much needed food to both nations. The Fourth Denim Light Cavalry of the House Davion forces was the first in action as they burned for their drop zone. The Capellan Aerospace contingent told them in not so many words that this was now their airspace and that the Fourth Denim could fuck off back home. This puts the Fourth Denim out of action for at least a week as their drop is now scattered across a good portion of the landscape. The Dragoons also got a taste of Mitchell Doctrine delivered to them by the Capellans, but they were still able to make landfall intact to start their offensive. This offensive was stalled, however, as they soon ran solidly into both regiments of the Northwind Highlanders, who said, "Oi, this 'ere is our land now, laddie." The Dragoons responded in typical Federated Sons fashion by throwing enough ammunition and artillery shells at them until the problem went away. Only the Dragoons' Epsilon Regiment was able to make any kind of initial progress. While the other 4 regiments of their brethren were bogged down, Epsilon made a grueling assault on Hill 714, more affectionately called Pillbox Hill, due to the number of defensive emplacements there. It took a nighttime assault and heavy losses, but Epsilon wound up taking the hill. Elsewhere on the planet, Delta Regiment was throwing itself into one failed assault after another. The greatest loss to Delta was the death of Colonel Travis King, who reluctantly ordered a retreat after his latest assault fell short. His archer got sniped by a Capellan arrow fighter who was all too happy to take pot shots at the retreating mechs. King took a direct hit to the back, and as we all know what happens next with missile boats like this one, went up in a massive fireball when his ammo was hit. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why archers need to stay at the back of the lines to be fire support. I'm sorry, but not everyone can be Jamie Wolfe or Morgan Kell, who are protected by plot armor. The AFFS wasn't faring much better, as the Avalon Hussars and the Crucis Lancers were also encountering stiff resistance. It was at this time that Jamie Wolfe started to realize that a new strategy was needed at this point, since, shockingly, the Capellans weren't playing by his playbook. The Dragoons' 7th Commandos, along with light units from the Alpha and Gamma regiments, dropped in behind Capellan lines, while Zeta Battalion went into the El Diablo Pass to take on the McCormick Fusiliers and Waco Rangers. Lieutenant John Waco, while out in the field and conducting recon operations, would have 2 subordinates express concerns about the pass's vulnerability. John agreed and tried to warn the Capellan units, but was ultimately ignored as the pass was deemed to be impassable by high command, and so it would only be his light lance of 2 Wasps, a Stinger, and a Hornet that would be defending El Diablo Pass initially, that soon came under fire from Zeta Battalion. As it is often said in Murphy's Laws of Combat, the diversion that you're ignoring is the main attack. John quickly realized that this was the case when it was reported that Alpha and Gamma were only dropping light units behind the main lines. That was the feint, and he was now facing the main attack that was hell-bent on taking the pass. John immediately alerted his father of the impending danger. Wayne, in turn, ordered John to retreat to move out of harm's way. But John was his father's son and was thus dedicated to the men and women under his command. He refused orders, deciding instead to stay with his unit and do his damn job. Despite being outmassed, outnumbered, and outgunned, John and his lance did what they could to delay the attackers, engaging in hit-and-run tactics while setting fire to the surrounding forest to create a smokescreen. But that wasn't going to last, as he was about to get an object lesson as to why you don't take a light mech into an assault mech fight. John got his Wasp stomped by the combined fire of 2 mechs, in his case, quite literally. Austin Roderick of the Wolf's Dragoons and his newly assigned Awesome shot down John after his lancemate and a Victor literally bitch-slapped the much lighter Wasp before tearing its arms clean off. Dazed and confused from the hit, John Waco was barely able to eject in time. Upon hitting the ground, the already stunned man started slapping at the quick release of his harness, rolled to the ground, and was trying desperately to crawl to safety. Then, Mechwarrior Haynes Keebler and his Stinger rushed over to help his commanding officer. However, the Stalker that was providing fire support now moved in to engage Haynes. The Dragoon pilot, Barham Diaz, later claimed that he was unable to see the downed pilot thanks to the smoke from the fires. As such, as he was trying to kill the Stinger, he wound up crushing John Waco underfoot after kicking over a tree, killing the young 20-something man instantly. It is here that I offer an unpopular opinion, as BattleMech sensors have the ability to see ejection seats, and there was no reason for a Stalker to go charging straight at a mech that weighed as much as one of its legs. You see, the Stalker is a missile boat like an archer and is designed to fire from afar. To engage a Stinger at point-blank range is just ludicrous. I believe that the lead Dragoon Assault Lance had something to prove, as they were, essentially, a convict lance. That's right, Austin Roderick and his lance mates had been brought up on charges of desertion early on in the campaign. They were cobbled together from units that they had fled from in battle. As such, Colonel Wells, who was the Zeta Battalion commander, kept on goading his little convict lance forward no matter what, and this would later be shown in the battle ROMs and radio transmissions. So I contend that the Dragoons knew exactly what they were doing and wanted to see this lance of Wacos Rangers utterly destroyed, because they had to continue to move forward or they might be facing a firing squad when they got back to base. But what the hell would I know? I'm just an asshole anchorman here. Lamenting over the loss of his son, Colonel Wayne Waco doesn't think that this was any kind of an accident, especially after watching the footage from Keebler's battle ROM, and he will be quite vocal about it to the Mercenary Review Board afterwards. Having a couple of little Urbies myself, I can see where Waco is coming from here. This mindset would just be exacerbated as Comstar's MRB would clear the Dragoons, Barham Diaz specifically, of any wrongdoing. After this decisive engagement in the Dragoons' favor, the battle for New Aragon quickly became a rout, as McCormick's Fusiliers soon broke and ran, and the shattered Wacos Rangers withdrew. Capellan forces were soon surrounded, and 2 months later they'd be driven off of the planet, leaving it in Davion hands by summertime. Crushed and demoralized from their losses, especially from John's death, who had been described as the future of the Rangers, Colonel Wayne Waco and all of the Waco Rangers swore a blood oath against Jamie Wolfe and the Wolf's Dragoons, either by choice or under duress from Waco himself. Haynes Keebler would be the only one of the Rangers who wouldn't swear the oath. Disgusted at the loss of what he saw as the only competent officer in the unit, he ripped off his unit patch and walked away from the Rangers, wallowing in his own grief and self-blame that he got his commander and friend killed out in the field of battle. Well, I'm sure that nothing will come from this posturing from Wayne Waco. Well, other than bringing the Dragoons up on charges at the Mercenary Review Board any chance that he gets, refusing employment with any successor state that also employed the Dragoons at that time, and actively hunting Dragoons down every chance that he gets. Yeah, nothing will come of this. I would say talk about holding a grudge, but then again, like I said earlier, I get where they're coming from. They were the size of a company, just 16 battle mechs. John Waco was the son of the commanding officer and knew everyone in the unit. So having a loss that is that high profile and extremely personal, one can understand their sorrow. While I'm pretty sure that Wayne Waco is a certifiable asshole by this point, but that is possibly brought on from the horrific deaths first of his wife and now his son. The man has lost everyone that he loved, and all that he has left is revenge. I can even go so far in saying that he's justified in his continued hatred of Jamie Wolfe and his people, and, come 3050, he might just be proven right in his vendetta. Anyway, moving on. Elsewhere in the Confederation this year, a minor raid on the unmapped world of Thomas happens, which is close to the star system of Percival. Stapleton's Iron Hand, under the employ of Duke Pavel Rydzik of the compelling Confederation, defends the planet against the Federated Suns' 33rd Avalon Hussars. In a skilled defense of the Duke's estates, the Iron Hand repelled the Hussars under the Duke's guidance. The world breathes a sigh of relief for now to not be under Davion occupation. And now, the sports. In sports news this year, Von Deravavon manages to defend his title as the Grand Champion of Solaris 7, but that is just barely. In a pitched battle against the former mercenary and Solaris rookie James O'Gordon, Vaughn narrowly comes out on top. We will see more of this rematch later in the next year. And that's the way it is in the Inner Sphere. Join us next time where not much happens. 3009 is looking to be a slow year, but we'll do what we can to bring you the news. Thank you and good night. I would like to take a moment to express my eternal gratitude to the guest artists whose awesome efforts help lore channels like this one. If you like their work, then please take the time to find them on social media and to show them your appreciation. And yes, that is the Black Pants Legion logo that you're seeing now. They were kind enough to allow me to use this meme for this video.